Pro Rodeo lost a legend over the last few days. On December 30th, Leo Camarillo passed away. Five-time world champion, Pro Rodeo Hall of Famer. He won a couple of those world titles with Tee Woolman. Tee Woolman joins us now to talk about Leo Camarillo. Tee, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to have me.
Thank you very much for joining us, Tee. Let's talk about Leo Camarillo. You won your first two world titles in 1980 and 1982, roping with Leo. What was he like?
He was a fierce competitor. You know, if he was on your team or if he was on his team, he had your back on everything you did, no matter what. You know, when we practiced, we'd get ready to go somewhere. He working on things. He'd tell you what he wanted to work on, what he needed you to work on. And, you know, he was a competitor. And like I said, if he was on his team, he had your back the whole way.
Kendra Santos wrote a great article in the Team Roping Journal. I would encourage anybody who wants to know more about Leo to read it. But she makes a comment that there was no more fierce competitor and there was no greater mentor. Are you an example of that? You win a world title your first year roping with Leo.
Yeah, you know, how we got started is I went to a school when I was 14 years old of Leo's, Gerald, and Reg's in Chickasha, Oklahoma. And at that school, he told me if I ever wanted to go pro to give him a call. And so when I was in school in Durant at Southeastern State University, and Roy Cooper was there, and he goes, I talked to Leo, he wants to rope with you, and you need to go to the finals with me. And so that's when 1979, I went to the finals with Roy one night and talked to Leo, and he was like, oh yeah, we'll give it a shot sometime, you know. So I had to buy a card real fast and get all that stuff. And he said, I'm going to give you a couple of chances here, you know, 2 or 3 rodeos and see how you perform. And then we'll go from there. And he was like, it was pretty intense, but I was up to the challenge. And so we just took off, and it was a heck of a ride. That's for sure.
Tell me about your first practice session. I read that he told you that the practice would start at 8, and to you, 8 meant get there at 8, and to Leo, 8 meant be on your horse and be ready to rope at 8.
That's exactly right. So I went to California and stayed out there at his house and stuff. And he goes, "We're going to rope in the morning at 8 o'clock." And I said, "Yes, sir." And so I come rolling out about 8 o'clock, and I look up, and he's got the steers wrapped. They're in the arena, and he's loping around, and he's like, "Son," I said, "we're going to rope at 8 o'clock. That means we're going to rope at 8 o'clock, not be here at 8. I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, my bad." And so from that day on, if he said 8 o'clock, I was there at 7:45. I was ready to roll.
You got an exemption reunion to the American. I'd forgotten about this a couple of years ago in Arlington. How much fun was that?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I think that's about the first time I've roped with him since we quit roping together. And it's like I told Kendra, you know, when we was practicing, he was always working on stuff. And so some days he didn't rope real well. And he was like, "Don't worry." Because I was like, "Dude, what's up with that?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it. I'm working." And I'm like, so, and it took us a little few runs to get back, and it was really cold that year. I mean, that week before the American, it was really cold. And then we went to a friend of mine's in Bluffdale, Troy Gibbs, and we roped the day there. And then we went to Chad Masters and roped the day there. And boy, it was so cold. But as we got the ball rolling, he started roping better and better and better. And just, you know, his skills were sharpening up. And like I told him, I'm like, he was 72 and I was 62 at the time. I want to see some other 72-year-old guy do what he did.
You reminded me of something earlier today. We talked. Leo will go down in the record books as having won 5 world titles. If they figured world championships in the late 70s and early 80s when there was only one team roping champion, the way they do today, he would actually have 7 because he should have been the world champion the 2 years that you guys won world titles together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, that was a decision he made. You know, there's a few rodeos back then that was entered twice, and so we roped with different partners, and he'd be ahead of me one week, and I'd be ahead of him the next week. And when it come to the finals, the first year I was ahead of him by 1,300 and something. And, you know, he just said, we talked about it. He goes, we do this for a living, and I rope for money, and so I'm going to heel for you at the finals. I'm like, outstanding. I appreciate it, and then in 1982, I got ahead of him by $129, and he made the same decision. Like I said, if he was on your team, he was on your team the whole way.
T, in the team roping world, in life, you can go wherever you want to with this. What Leo leave behind? What's his lasting impact going to be?
He got the ball rolling. He started it all. He was always working to rope faster and faster and kept working on it. And I think we brought it several steps up when Leo and I roped together. And then, Speed and then Jake and Clay come along and they moved it up a little bit more. And then Speed and Rich moved it up. And now the new generation has moved it up. But it was Leo that got it all started. I mean, if you was back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, when you was a little kid, if you had anything to do with roping or team roping especially, you wanted to be Leo, Gerald, HP, Reg. You want to be one of the guys. He's always outside playing, roping. You was always mocking them guys. And so he's going to be not a living legend, but he's going to be a legend, and you're going to look up to him and like, man, he was and probably will be the greatest of all times.
I just want to remind everybody that nobody has been to the NFR and the steer roping finals combined more than Tee Woolman. Went into the Hall of Fame in 2004. T, thank you for your time. Thank you for your memories. I know Leo's probably roping up in heaven right now. I appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir. You're going to probably hear the roar of the lion.
Tee Woolman joining us on Western Sports Roundup. I wonder if old Stick was waiting for Leo when he got there. Leo Camarillo was 74 years old, passed away on December the 30th. 20 trips to the National Finals Rodeo. God bless everybody. For Janie Johnson, I'm Steve Kenyon. This is Western Sports Roundup.